Call to order the Dana 2024 meeting of Coordinated Airport Advisory Board agenda. So roll call the airport board and Ross Howard. Yep. Larry Liddell. Conrad. I'm here. Mr. Airport. Steve Anderson.
Here.
Mike Cosby.
Here.
And Brian Cleary.
Here. In the flash.
And the Richard Young, Frank O'Connell. I'd like to ask everyone now to stand for the pledge of allegiance.
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, at this point, I'd like to shuffle a few items on the agenda. Number 3, we're going to move to number 5, which will make number 4 now number 3 and number 5 number 4. We're doing this to convenience.
Can you sit there for just a second, please?
Alderman Stanley Jonathan, proper notice of the agenda, proper amending the agenda.
We just had to amend the agenda due to the fact we added an agenda item. We just need a motion to accept.
I move we amend the agenda.
Well, I was going to do this. Go ahead and call for any conflicts of interest. We'll get around that. We have done changes to the agenda. Go ahead. Call for a motion and
I move we. I'll second.
okay, we have a motion to change the agenda to count over South District. All in favor, say aye. That's unanimous. And now we're down to number 5. Dick Rutan was a member of this board. He only managed to make one meeting. Unfortunately, his illness caught up with him. And I'm going to turn this over to Mike Cosby for a few words, and then we'll miss out.
Yeah, Dick Rutan was, well, I heard about his death about an hour after it happened. Bert, his brother, had texted me, and he had a press release that he was working on. And I said, you know, my comment to Bert was a fitting tribute to a great American hero, which Dick was and is still. There's way too much for me to go over right now. We don't have the time, but if you simply Google his name, you'll find out that he's the who's who of everything war hero. My personal experiences with he and his brother, Bert, and I will miss the two of them wandering over to my hangar just on a whim and getting into the friendly brotherly banter that used to go on between them. And I think my favorite was when Bert said, yeah, he's my older brother. And Dick would say, but I'm the more handsome one. And so I really got a kick out of those two when they got together. But and then also I couldn't appreciate that heroic undertaking he took with Voyager. And first around the world non-fuel flight. And I asked him once, of all the aircraft you loved flying the most, what was it? He said it was Voyager. So I think it was because of the challenge. And that man was always up to a challenge. So with that, moment of silence.
If you haven't already, I thought it was for me, please set up. Now we're on to item 6, public comment. I would like to revive a prior protocol that we used to do, and we got away from it and experienced problems for the young lady that has to do these meetings, and it's trying to hear everybody talk from their different parts of the room. So if anybody making a public comment, I would appreciate if you would step forward to, you have a point here? Right there. Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Step forward to the microphone and state your name. I would ask you to do your comment, stay on topic, and please be as brief as you can. can, so that if they're, want to get up and make comments, they will have an opportunity. So the microphone is now available for the comment for anybody who wants to step forward.
You have two public comments on here, they're two different.
No, we always have one, after the business section of the meeting. We have it in two different spots.
Okay, this either or, I guess, because the word the microphone.
Well, this would be an opportunity to comment on, I would look at it this way, anything that's not on the business agenda, because once we have the business, I think that would be the appropriate time to make a comment.
Well,
There will be one after.
well.
Yeah.
Well, the other reason that there's two is that, if we've got action items on the agenda, the public comment that comes after those action items precludes the opportunity for, a change in the action. So, if there's something on the agenda that you want to comment about in advance of, the action, this would be the appropriate place to talk.
Don't see any action that I see business, so I'm assuming that you're not going to, I can take any action on that business. Or is it-
Well, we're gonna take action on items A, items B and C are discussion only. So there'll be nothing there for the vote, for the board to vote on.
I'll speak now. I'm ready to get over it. Where's the microphone?
Yeah,
Just
right.
anywhere.
Okay, good afternoon, evening. Thank you for providing this opportunity here. I'm Eddie Priest. First need to say I'm here as a Hayden citizen. I am a city councilman, but I am not representing the city. I'm not representing the council. I live up in Monthaven. That's why I'm here tonight. I see B as the opportunities for resumption of scheduled airline service. I and a lot of people, I don't think really understand or really know exactly what that encompasses. I know it's been here before and it's been bandied about. And I think there are a lot of, I'm going to speak for myself, here to get more information on what you're talking about, what's happening here. I live right under the flight path. Planes usually come up from the south, and they seem to have been increasing over the years in numbers, frequency, noise level, et cetera. They come up, and then if there's a circle around, probably come in from the north. In California, people here, Southern California, not great again, is it? Anybody who, long time ago remembers Orange County, which is now John Wayne, or Ontario, I remember when those were single building terminals. Now look at it. Okay, things have a way of once that door is open, become two doors, next thing you know, it's a roll-up door. I think that's a lot of what I know I am, and others are probably concerned about. The main thing I think I want to say is, if it comes to that point, whenever it does come to that point, whether it's 2 months, 2 years, 10 years, please put on the ballot, and maybe it's the county commissioners that will end up making that decision or not. I'm not sure how, what the logistics are here, but this is such an important concern of people and will continue to be, that I think the people need to have that amount of input. Tell them what you're going to do, lay it out, and ask the people, do you want it or not? Please don't just ram it down their throats, because I think it will only exacerbate the perception that a lot of people in positions of decision making get, where they don't listen to us. And I can tell you, they don't listen to us, they just do it, so what? So please, in the future, when it comes to that point, I implore you to put it on the ballot for people.
One comment, Jack, you do understand that this isn't advisory. We actually have no governance here. I think Gaston would probably, be the proper person to address that. We are here to, take recommendations, at some point in the future, if it's decided for whatever reason that commercial services is going to return to Coeur d'Alene, we might be put in a position to say, yeah, we think that's a good idea, or not, we don't approve it. But we actually, at the end of the day, it's going to be up to airport management and the county commissioners as to whether they'll have that return. And additionally, we are under a lot of federal money. FAA grants us a lot of money, and I think our grant assurances would put us in a position where I don't know that we can have a choice to say, no, you can't bring an airline in here.
We can absolutely create the roadmap for it. So, and I want to be clear, as of this time, there is no company looking at Coeur d'Alene to bring commercial service to the field. So this is strictly a educational presentation that was brought forward where the gentleman wanted to speak on this. This is not a company that's looking to bring commercial here. Nobody has contacted the airport to bring commercial here. That's a moot point at this point. When that time comes, there would be a great public input from the community, like it from everyone, commissioners, city. It would be lots of public sessions for that.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
Definitely would not be completed in a vacuum.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, I'm gonna move on to approve minutes of the previous meeting. Everyone make a motion.
I will move the approval of the minutes from the previous meeting. I second.
Motion has been made to approve minutes of the previous meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nay? Hearing none? That's carried. Move on to item 8, staff reports and updates. Cory, you want to tell us what's going on with Cordova?
I'm gonna stand up and do the speaker, which you have to go
I think it makes it much easier.
Yeah.
after she goes to the
Okay.
sentence.
Sounds good. I'm Cory Sickford with Ardura. Just going through ongoing engineering projects at Port Elaine Airport. We've closed out and completed 2 over the past, since the past meeting. The runway lighting improvement project at Taxiway D North, they've both physically been completed for a little bit of time, but the paperwork is finally done. The snow removal equipment building is physically complete. We are still working on the asphalt and final reporting of that and hope to have it submitted over the next month or so. Runway 624 rehab and taxiway B3 project is, we're doing the last bit of striping today. The runway 624 is closed to finish that up. And we're going to do a final walkthrough tomorrow and hopefully then start the closeout process on that, which would be doing as-built and final payment, things like that. So the taxiway B pavement maintenance project is still ongoing. They have not done the second set of the final striping on that yet. We're hoping for next Wednesday to start and do a full enclosure on taxiway November to finish that up. Let's see here, and then close out would be after that. So the taxiway C project that we've been working on for a while, the design bids for that, the county received 5 bids on the project in the beginning of, it was April. The apparent low bidder is Northwest Grading. Ardura and the FAA have recommended award to this low bidder, and so sent the award letter to the county. And I believe the county has issued the notice of award to Northwest Grading for that project. Let's see here. So then the next step in that would be that we would wait for FAA grant funding. It should come through in July, I believe. And the plan was to start construction in around the 1st of September. And it's mainly a big grading project at first, and then the actual taxiway would be constructed in the following spring, 2025. So we had some south pavement maintenance. I believe that is on hold, waiting for FAA funding. So that project is kind of a pause right now. Also the air traffic control tower, it's still just on the list. It's also on pause. We've been working with Gaston for the wildlife hazard management plan to get it updated and resubmitted to the FAA. And I think we should have the final draft by this Friday. And then we've been working with Kim to get a sewer survey update. So we had the airport has like a GIS sewer system so they can figure out, and we've added some chunks to that. And so it's basically to take the mapping and put it into her database with survey so she can see the new spots. Any questions?
So we already got the runway closure today.
It's still closed, but
Opening up at 9, if not earlier. So.
Are there gonna be any additional closures going forward?
We do not foresee any. They were able to finish all the painting on 624 and anything inside the RSA, so everything is outside the runway safety area from this point on.
That's my question. So, Yasmin, do you have an update on the temporary tower?
Yeah, absolutely. I can roll right into my stuff. So the temporary tower that the airport is constructing out of the shipping containers, that project is coming along. The foundation is all in. The bottom containers have been placed and the process being bolted down to the ground. The top cab and call it the break room cab are currently at Cooper Fab getting fabricated. So they're doing all the cutouts on the windows, framing in, doing all that kind of stuff. Those will arrive back at the airport hopefully in the next week or two. Once they get here, we're on the home stretch. Essentially, we'll be insulating, doing like a spray foam insulation inside the two habitable cabs, and then it'll go vertical from there. So you'll literally see it go from what it is today to vertical within one day. We'll have a crane come out, stack them, bolt them. The whole rest of the process is pretty modular. So that's on track. The controllers are here on the field and operational out of their temporary trailer until they can move into our tower. That started up last Wednesday on the 1st. Getting all the bugs worked out, the kinks and stuff. They're getting used to being back in Coeur d'Alene with the traffic that we have. If the last week or so is kind of showing us what the next season's going to look like, it's looking pretty busy. We're already hitting 200 and 300 off days. It's not even Memorial Day yet. So we're definitely glad to have those guys here, bringing that level of safety to us. So yeah, so the next step will be getting those tower pieces back, and then we can start going vertical with it. I know they're excited to get a little more elevation and get the antennas up a little higher and stuff. So it'll definitely work out pretty well. As far as pavement maintenance on the airport side, definitely a project we've been working on in conjunction with the 64 November rehab project. I wanted to have our staff basically maintain all of the west ramp, the deltas, 2 and 2-0, alpha, and everything. So currently we're doing crack sealing. So our guys have the crack seal machine out there. They're just about wrapped up with the west ramp, and they'll be moving down delta and the deltas. We were able to take advantage of the runway 220 closure when they were doing the intersection work, and they were able to crack seal all of 2 and 2-0. So we won't have to get on that again. We do, once they finish with crack sealing, we're going to roll right into our painting. So we'll be using our paint machine to paint everything that is pretty much from Foxtrot to the north is getting painted with the FAA projects. We're going to paint 2 and 2-0 and everything south. So by the end of this summer, the entire airport will be looking pretty nice, spruced up. So I anticipate a closure for 2 and 2-0, but we're going to try and do night closures for the painting on that. It should take a night or two for us to do that, but we'll do that middle of the night, try and impact operations as least we can.
Is that gonna be done with staff?
Yes. Yep. All that's in-house. It's all equipment we have in-house. So pretty good in that regard. Outside of that, just normal maintenance projects. We've started mowing and cutting grass out there. I wouldn't be surprised if you see the mowers out in the middle of the night. We're going to probably be doing some night shift work just with the amount of traffic coming and going. It's kind of hard to mow in some areas or around in the RSA for both runways. So those areas, you could see mowers out here in the middle of the night, just guys adjusting shift schedules to get that work done around traffic and stuff. But other than that, pretty much business as usual. The projects are going pretty well. Definitely excited to have 64 finished and all spruced up. So yeah, able to answer any questions.
I have a question. So what's the projected occupancy date for the new tower?
We are shooting for June 1st, but likely it'll go into the middle of June. I'm thinking like June 15th or so. They were a little delayed on a couple of the tests that were required for the foundation. So yeah.
How's the visibility?
Good visibility for our midfield, our main one, and the runway 6, but probably a little bit limited for the runway 2 sock down here. As flat as it seems, that Compass Rose is actually a little bit in a hole. If you look across, you can
Well, it's kind of about 2 cents since the road.
Yeah, correct. Definitely. Go ahead.
I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, you're good.
So once the new temporary tower, is that what you're calling it? The new temporary?
Yep.
Once it's up and running, will it continue to be on a seasonal operational basis? Like it'll ramp back up in the spring
Yep.
each year?
We plan to run it May 1st to October 31st every year. So for that 6-month busy season, essentially.
And then, a couple meetings back, you mentioned the friendly instructions that might be there for flyers that
Mhm.
that you were conceptualizing. I don't want to commit you beyond what you were saying, but I think you had a concept and you were working on the idea.
Absolutely. We're hoping within the next meeting or two with the advisory board, bringing those templates forward to you. We wanted to let the controllers get on station, start moving traffic, seeing how it flows with the different flight schools, private traffic, all the different stuff. And then start to see ways that we can direct traffic to keep it off of neighborhoods, essentially. So that's one of the big pluses to having the tower, is us being able to create different, not no-fly zones, but quiet fly zones. Like, we want to be a good neighbor. Let's try and keep the traffic over commercial corridors, like over 95, over 90, if the flow allows, essentially. So once they have another week or so to kind of figure out how the traffic flows are working, they're going to recommend to me different ways that they could move traffic around this area safely. And we'll start to develop a plan like that to
That makes
really
sense.
streamline the traffic. So
That makes sense, and I appreciate that you're doing it in that deliberative fashion.
Yeah.
And, one of the concerns that I brought to the board, I'm not a pilot, I'm a resident of the hills, there's air traffic. And over the year that I've served in the board, it was a learning curve to understand how things work. You and I had talked about, this idea of some friendly instructions that other airports use with some success. And I appreciate that you're looking into this. And I note that the online, which is anecdotal, when I do see certain forums where it's the misunderstanding that people have often that leads them to be upset. And I think promoting this and explaining what the concept is really, it's not going to eliminate all criticism, all that kind of thing, but I do think it will help people understand
absolutely.
what you're trying to do to minimize air traffic in places where people, live,
Mhm.
basically.
Definitely.
So, I commend you for continuing to work on this.
Absolutely.
Anything on favorability?
Did we get any info back from our FAA inspection?
We did, and we just received the report back, the official report. It actually went very well. As far as now, mind you, this is our 139 inspection, so they're literally just checking the 139 surfaces, our primary runway, 64 November, and Western. The rest of the airport, they inspect it, but they don't really weigh in on it. It's more the GA side when they see it. We did very well. We actually had one of the highest marks in the state as far as cleanliness for like our RSAs and all the infield areas, no ruts, clean mowing. They look at pavement edge, concrete edge, like everything has to be, above 3 inches essentially. A few housekeeping items they wanted us to change, but that's something that's changing pretty much nationwide. We are a 139 airport, which means we are unscheduled for commercial service essentially. So right now, you can get the larger carriers in here, but they have to call us and let us know they're coming. So it's something very special, like Gonzaga chartered to Southwest to come in here. There's a corporate event or something like that. So few and far between. Those airports were always held to a little bit lower standard as far as what were required inspections, paperwork, housekeeping type stuff. The way the FAA is looking at it now, they treat us just like a category 1, which would be Spokane, Seattle, LAX, as far as our maintenance and records keeping. So there's a few more inspections we have to do, like on our nav aids, our PAPIs. They want to see, rather than in a normal like daily inspection, we go through and say, yes, the PAPIs are functioning, they're on, they're good. Now they want to see like a daily, quarterly annual inspection that's separate from that. That says you went out there and checked the inclinometer. It's basically just separating some of the inspections. So getting up to speed on that, creating those inspections in our AeroSimple software and stuff. But outside of that, the only thing they really talked to us about was our ARF truck. It being 24 years old now, it's about 2.5 times the life limit that they want to see on an airport. Usually they're on a 5 to 7 year rotation for those. That's already on our AIP schedule with the FAA to replace the ARF truck. So that'll all be done through federal dollars. It's a federal grant to replace that through our bill money, our normal allocations. So them flagging that on our inspection, CERT branch now gets a hold of our ADO to push that through essentially. So that helps us in that regard. So it's about 2 years out on one of those, but we'll, over the next couple of years, see a replacement on that.
I have a question about that ARF truck. So they have a life limit on it. It sounds like it's more of a calendar limit than a in-hours use limit.
Correct. Yeah.
I mean, you could buy an ARF truck. Maybe Phil, you could probably add to this. But if you buy an ARF truck, it's you go and park it and you never use it, but you do the maintenance on it.
Mhm.
It seems like it should be just as serviceable as when you purchased it, except maybe some of the bells and whistles. I mean,
So
do they drive themselves now?
exactly, right? Yeah. So more than anything, if our truck was only 5 to 7 years old, there wouldn't be much of a difference between the truck we would be getting replaced. It would be a little more off, but our truck being the 24 years old, AFFF, the PFAS foam that everyone talks about, that is now the new F3 fluorine-free foam has been approved by the FAA. They're trying to get airports to switch into it. They're not mandating yet, which is why we can still have a normal AFFF here. But our truck is not even capable of operating with the new foam. The tank isn't the right kind of tank. The nozzles aren't the right, the mixing, all that kind of stuff. The actual drivetrain of our truck, it's an old 2-stroke Detroit diesel. Like, no one will even touch it unless you upgrade the power plant. So there's all these lists. If you were to say, let's just look at rehabbing our truck would cost the exact replacement to rehab that and repower it. So we're way beyond that with ours. It can't continue to function like it is and meet the standard.
So are we safe until then?
We're safe until then. We're good. It's up to standard. It's inspected. We're
Okay.
You mentioned a while back something about fixing to do a noise survey again, and I just wondered, is that something that's on the boards that needs to be, like, it's on in the queue for like funding to get that?
It will be with the master plan update, and that's actually been set aside as a special section of the master plan. So it won't just be a 1 page. This will actually be an additional study with it. So it's about 10 steps of a normal update. So that'll be done in conjunction with the update.
And the land to the north, how does that come along with the CADX and whatnot?
We pretty much push pause on that, just pending having a plan for it, essentially. The FAA has kind of changed their views on what they reimburse for on land and why. So essentially the way it would work right now, if we purchase the land and we're looking, normally you would get a full reimbursement of it, but now they look and they say, okay, you don't have a specific plan for it. We will only reimburse you for runway protection area. So if you look at the extend runway 220, they're literally paying us for like 1/10 of an acre out of 80 acres. So right now there's no immediate push to look at purchasing that.
Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions? All good? Thank you.
Just a few other outline things we covered before, any updates, maybe development. New runway, grass runway 220.
The grant, so officially it's a alternate landing area. So you don't name it a runway because you can't have two runways that close to each other, essentially center line to center line there. So there's no simultaneous use allowed on it. You can land and take off on it. We're looking at roughly a 2,500 foot by 60 foot grass area improvement essentially right off the edge of 2 and 2-0. A couple weeks ago, we had the opportunity to go over and tour Phelps Field and their grass runway, which is extremely nice. They actually roll out sun, have all the sprinklers and everything else. So definitely looking to do something nice like that. We already have the equipment to mow it and stuff, so now we can work with Ardura on the design of the landing area and paperwork and stuff like that.
So I do have a question. So where would the approach and departure ends?
Essentially, they would line right up with our connectors on the 2 and 2-0. So that one there, and then one just to the south there.
Okay.
Yep, those would be the on and off essentially. Yes. And hangar development, I've met with a few people on our build list. The build list is almost up to 54 people now requesting to build hangars. So we've actually started to tick away at the list and offer some of the onesie, twosie type spots around the airport. We identified about 6 locations. I think the same ones that Larry and I kind of drove around and looked at. So definitely getting interest in building up some of those as far as just private hangars and stuff. So
And there's still a shortage. You have more applicants than you have actually.
absolutely, yep.
By what factor?
I would say there's still about 80% of them that'll still be looking to build on that list. Yeah,
So Ross's development, you into that list, you think?
it definitely could. So yeah, we're waiting to see exactly how that comes together once those are all finished and able to be occupied.
So what's the total in yours? They're T hangers, right?
18 T hangers, right? Just identical to what's there right now, just
Okay.
this side of it's what's going on.
You and I chatted a while back about, what is this, how many planes are on the wait list, but also a consideration is how many of those are really kind of doubled up already in like some other hangar, they're just looking for a hangar. It's not like you're bringing new airplanes to the airport, you've got 2 planes in one hangar.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of that list that I know are already based here. They're sharing a hangar with someone. They're already on the field, so we're not actually adding a new airplane or adding new traffic. They're already here. They're operating. They're just wanting to get into their own hangar finally and build their hangar.
And we got people on the ramp as well.
Correct. Yep.
Kellogg, Sandpoint, places like that, wanting to have their airplanes close quarter with.
Yeah. So I think context like that helps from a public relations perspective because it's not adding new planes.
Right.
It's you're moving a plane out of a double hangar situation at the moment.
Yep.
I have another question. So how accurate is your census and when does that take place? Is it an annual census? Because I know I get a request every once in a while. How many helicopters do you have on the aircraft?
Yeah, that's updated.
When is that updated every year?
Right beginning of the year. We usually do that in January. Submit that down to the state. Yeah.
So of that list that's waiting, do you say it's fair maybe like a half or more than half or just kind of planes that are doubled up or a year?
Right, about probably 40 to 50% of them. Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you do have people within the area. Like everything else that's coming in this county.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
No.
All right.
Thank you.
No worries.
Thank you.
Moving on, Mr. Graviano. Portland Airport Association.
Yeah, my name is Henry Craviano, Portland Airport Association, and I would just like to say that we are moving along with all our projects. We have people coming and giving us talks on different things. We've had the airport or the commissioners, a couple of candidates for commissioner come by and talk to us. Pat Master was the last one, and they'll give me the time before that. We have Dr. Van Tufel, designated medical examiner coming this next Tuesday at 6:30 at 5 o'clock over at the Hagedorn hangar. And then we have a scholarship program going, and also we're looking at fly friendly discussion. We'll put it that way. And then that's all I have.
Thank you, Gary.
Any questions?
Item 10, business. Report proposed fee increases with Kim Stevenson.
All right, thanks, you guys. So, in March of 2024, we went through the CPI adjustment. The West BC, we pulled the numbers and discussed that the CPI adjustment would be 4.32%. And that was agreed upon by the board. So now what we have is in your packet highlighted are the fees that we're looking to adjust and put to the Board of County Commissioners in the form of a resolution for our fee structure for the next year. Okay, so basically the CPI adjustment as applied to the lease rate would bring our private aeronautical rate to 0.251 cents per square foot, commercial aeronautical 0.314 cents per square foot, and non-aeronautical at 0.627 cents per square foot. So do you want to talk about these individually? Do you want to ask questions before we move on to the next section? How do you want to do it?
I think in terms of the lease rates, we already see our cans at the March meeting that we're not to be going to use. But I think based on what we're seeing here, unless anybody wants to add into the discussion, it seems to be reasonable and in line with the expectations we have.
Okay,
So
do you have a question, Lisa?
Well, I just wondered if you're gonna ask questions on each of the increases, or if you're gonna wait till the end.
We can go over them one at a time and do discussion in between and then just recap where we're at for the resolution. Is that good?
These fees is this basically a 4.32% increase on what we had previously?
Yes, our base rates for
This is the base rate for-
2023, correct, yes.
So
Mhm.
they all went up 4.3.
Right, and we also applied the 5-year rolling average to that as well, so. Mhm.
I'm curious to know if you worked it out the other way where it was not using the rolling average just for fun.
You don't need to go do it.
Yeah,
I was
no,
just wondering
actually
if you
I
have.
did, but I didn't bring that with
Okay,
me since we talked about it in March.
Do you remember how it compared
I,
roughly? No?
no.
Just
Okay, so if we're, no more questions on that, then we'll move down to number 6, fuel flowage. So some of the reasons for adjusting these next 2 fees have to do with the fact that we do have the temporary tower and we do have the increased costs that go along with that. And it is important for the airport to stay off the property tax rolls. We have not taken property tax dollars from the county for the last 3 years. And so because of that, we have to increase our revenues because our expenses increased for the tower. And the airport feels that that is a benefit that we're willing to go to the users and increase some fees a little bit to take care of that. So proposed fuel flowage is on 100 low lead is from 0.07 cents per gallon to 0.09 cents per gallon. That should be a nominal increase for the average GA user when they fill their tank up to go fly. So a 2-cent increase per gallon. And then on Jet A, we thought we'd bring to the board and have a discussion about the amount of increase on Jet A. So it's currently 9 cents a gallon. And we're proposing 12 cents to 14 cents, somewhere in that neighborhood. So an increase of 3 to 5 cents per gallon. on Jet A. So we've done a little bit of research. Currently, Sun Valley is at 15 cents a gallon for Jet A. Aspen is 14 cents a gallon for Jet A. And Sonoma County, Charles Schultz, they're at 14 cents a gallon for Jet A. And so we kind of fit that mold. We've got a bit of the resort community.
And regionally, regionally, we're around 12 cents per gallon. Like you're looking at Spokane and all the surrounding airports to us too, so.
I have a question. To try to understand this better. This isn't necessarily what the consumer will see.
Correct.
This is what,
Yes.
because you guys don't sell fuel, right?
Correct.
This is just simply what you'll receive from, but the fuel prices are totally, market driven,
Independent, correct.
Wild, very wildly all around.
This is the flowage that's charged on fuel brought onto the
Yeah,
airport. So
this is what
primarily,
you'll receive.
the
That doesn't
FBO.
necessarily,
Yeah.
the fuel prices could go down for the consumer or it doesn't
Possibly.
really have much to do with it.
Possibly. It depends on the individual business model of
Yeah.
the person selling the fuel, what they choose to do. Their fees
If the whole fuel
increase.
price, Fuel drop, it will go down to the consumer.
Mhm.
So this is just one piece of the overall.
This
fuel
is
price.
jive, it doesn't change.
correct.
Correct, right.
There's really no, and there's no control whatsoever from the airport on fuel prices. This is
No.
just simply one of the costs of their.
This is the fuel that's brought onto the airport. So by the FBO or any of the private self-fuelers, yeah.
What did they say about Spokane? On Jet
Spokane just went to 12 cents on their Jet A.
So I have a couple of questions and maybe a comment or two. And is Joe here from Stancraft? Okay, so I've been at these meetings before where they've discussed fuel flow fees. And Joe, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of it, well, first let me preface this by asking what's the percentage spread between the low lead sales and the Jet A sales here at the county? What percentage of the fuel flow fees are because of 100 low lead and then
Pretty
Jet A?
large. Jet A, Jet A, you're gonna see 1.3 to 1.4 million gallons flowed annually. This is
Right.
23 numbers
Mhm.
to just over 100,000 gallons of 100 low lead flown. So
Okay, so there's
a tenth of Jet, yeah.
And so the reason I mentioned Joe is because in some of the past meetings, he's mentioned the fact that, a nickel can make a difference of somebody coming in and filling up at Coeur d'Alene versus maybe going somewhere else. So I know it's a sensitive issue. And I know there's this evil thing called the price volume curve, and that when you jack your prices up, your volume tends to go down because people tend to go elsewhere to purchase. So I'm just wondering if that concept has been taken into consideration here with, increasing the prices, because you're talking probably that nickel a gallon. I mean, those large aircraft hold a lot of fuel.
Absolutely. And I don't want to speak for Joe or Stancraft or anyone. These are definitely numbers that were not created in a vacuum.
Right.
They have been discussed. One of the biggest benefits to this was being able to offset that cost of having our contractors here. And for the air traffic control tower, that's one of the biggest things. And seeing those, essentially the out of town users that are using, this is a use fee essentially, like them coming to use the airport, visit Coeur d'Alene. That's primarily who would be paying for that flowage essentially. So. Go ahead.
I had a question related to, you queued it up very nicely for me. So if you're using this as a fee to offset an expense, what numbers do you have to show that the fee will either cover the expense or be less than the expense? So we meet statutory requirement, not charging in excess of that fee.
Right. It's definitely, it's right on what essentially the offset was. So there's definitely not an excess with these, even if we went to the 14 cents.
And then to follow up on that would be, if this is a temporary cost, how is that fee, the fee is permanent, what would the fee be used in the event that the temporary tower is no longer?
I think we need to fix this analysis right there. This is going to be a seasonal tower. It will be year after year. It will not be going away.
Correct. And when we look at fuel flowage too, this is something that hasn't been visited in a while at this airport. We are behind the curve when it comes to raising our fuel flowage regionally. Typically airports that don't have scheduled service in and out of the field, they don't have passenger fees, the PFCs coming in, they don't have Hertz and Enterprise. These are all ways that like Spokane makes money on stuff. So typically airports that are your 139 airports that do charge a flowage fee would have a higher flowage fee in an airport like ours where they don't have those other services to make up that cost.
I
So
apologize for my naivety.
No, you're good. Absolutely.
I want the record to reflect that the fee that you guys are looking to bring on is a consistent expense and it's not a temporary one. So
correct.
the record reflects that. That's what we.
Yes. Yep.
And I think it's instructive here to for everyone to see what the costs are associated with this tower at the airport.
Absolutely.
Not just the capital cost, but I mean,
Yeah, essentially, so right now our current agreement is the Forest Service pays for 3 of the 6 months of service or more. So that's a baseline. So we have to at least budget roughly $450,000 for our 3 months. Now, a 3-month fire season is a very light fire season. Last year was a kind of an odd one where we really didn't have much of a fire season, and that's what we base this off of. We want to be very conservative when planning those numbers. So likely, the Forest Service is planning on, a 4 or 5 month coverage of our contract tower personnel. So this flowage fee, I think we're doing rough numbers. If we went to the 14 cent, we would be, was it roughly?
35.
Yeah. $35,000, dollars. We're looking at $50,000 coming in additionally on our normal flowage. And that's once again, 23 numbers, not even 24, what we could flow this year. So it's a supplement to that. It's definitely not in excess. We're still, the airport's budget's increasing. We are bringing a new level of safety to the airport. We are absorbing that cost with our other fees that are already here. We last year put $980,000 surplus into the airport. So spending $300,000 of that to bring one of the safest additions to the airport that's warranted. So it's just to help supplement that essentially.
My questions really were just to draw out what wasn't provided in the record so that we could say it on the record. So when we make a recommendation, the record reflects what.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes, I have a question. So when the forestry service is here fighting fires, where do they procure their fuel from? Is it here on site?
Yep.
Okay, so all their fuel comes from on site, so that would be a big portion of the fuel. Right.
But is that included in the 1.1 million gallons generated?
Yes.
of them 1.1 million, which is 2023 numbers or 2022, I think. How much is the Forest Service of that? Do you know?
I don't have an exact number on that. No. Yeah, definitely.
No, because they purchase from Stancraft and Stancraft pays us the fuel flowage. Mhm.
So you don't really know from that. They have the numbers, not you.
So fuel flowage is based on fuel that is brought onto the field, not once it's pumped when it's here.
Right.
Right. So they get
Right.
100,000
keep track of the
gallons.
customers, not you.
Right. Yeah. So
When a 10,000 gallon truck comes in here, you get tax. 2 cents, additional 2 cents on that 10,000 gallons.
correct. Yes. So then, if there's no other questions on that, we kind of want to talk about the range, do 14 would put us, right under Sun Valley, equal with some other, airports in the region. Does the board have a suggestion as to, where we should fall on that?
So what did Phelps fuel be at? What do you happen to know what they're at currently?
I believe Phelps is at 10 cents per gallon.
They obviously don't do the volume.
Correct. Yeah.
Mhm.
Now,
Tim.
you're charging what now up there, or what is?
We're at 9 cents currently
Yeah.
for jet.
jump in this conversation. I want to be careful with this because I am losing Jenny over food. But I'm more concerned about, being, competitive with what's in the region, for FBOs and so on and so forth. And I'm having a difficult time understanding why we would go about what Spokane, Phelps Field may be doing. I know they have other fees cast, and we'll be talking, inclusive also some additional temporary and, permanent landing fees that are going.
Absolutely, and that,
So I'm trying to get the whole picture.
that's why we wanted to offer the range and bring it in for discussion, essentially.
Well,
So
that's
put that on the table.
Two cents worth, but I did go on record saying that I used it.
Absolutely.
But I also go on record, what normally my customers pay for it, but I'm concerned about costs for them also.
Absolutely.
Phelps is currently out for gas prices, for generating prices. But I think everything in the state of Washington is more expensive.
Yeah.
Oh, I, but the overall
Carbon
price,
tax and some other.
you know, I'm looking at, okay, for example, when we're rolling at Phelps, it's 7.36 a gallon, here it's 6.05. So I'm assuming there's a proportionate relationship with Gen A over in the state of Washington. So as to, you know, being competitive with Phelps, I don't know how much impact it would have on that relationship.
Phelps doesn't have our runway. I can't land there.
So,
You could land, but you couldn't take off.
There you go.
Just leave it over there.
I guess it, you know, the issue really then is if we're gonna increase it, how much? Is it 3 cents, 4 cents, 5 cents?
It's really a broad, I mean, the fuel pricing is so diverse. You know, like Paranav has Deer Park at $5 for self-service, Phelps Field at $8.55, and Stancraft at $8.40, listed on their fuel prices right here, which can flying from here to across country, there'll be places at $3 a gallon. There'll be places at more. And so it's wild, the pricing is wild. And it primarily is, in my experience, dictated by the number of FBOs on the field and the competition. And so I don't think that, you know, there would be a small impact to people choosing whether or not, if this directly affected fuel prices, which I don't think it will. If it directly affected fuel prices, there'd be a small impact for people deciding should they land here to get fuel or somewhere else as they're traversing cross country. I don't think we're really in that much of a route for jet fuel to do that where we're situated here. So I think people who are coming here as a destination. And I don't think that the fuel, I'm kind of jumping ahead talking about the airport use fees, but I personally would much rather see the flowage fee than the landing fee, because I think the landing fees are irritating and deterrent, and they're an accounting nightmare. And the flowage is easy, and people don't really see it, and it doesn't irritate. It's not an irritation. You know, the fuel prices are somewhere between $3 and $8. An extra 10 cents is not trying to show up like landing fees.
I spent 5 years as a financial administrator for a corporate point for Pacific utility organizations. Sad Nashville when they went around the country and charged gas prices. But at that time, I remember when we came to Coeur d'Alene, they would put on maybe 600 to 1,200 pounds. So to get to Hillsborough, then they go down there. But at that time, our prices were perhaps not really higher than any place else in the market. When we discussed this, looking at the pricing in the area, felt like, okay, yeah, this perhaps would lead to making prices. But again, it's a fee for a service we did not have before. We have introduced a safety element that's very necessary to consider for we thought it was only fair. We're going to do some cost sharing, and be done on get alleviation, we'll get traffic, and then be in a position to manage, which I would have guessed and address that. We didn't feel like this incremental cost of storage fee was as radical as it could have been. It's just a way of saying, okay, we've got a new feature here, it's gonna be here seasonally from now on. We think it's gonna save some lives, it's gonna prevent some serious problems. Any of us have flown around here have known for the last 5-6 years, it's a pretty dangerous place to fly. So, you know, if they came to me and said, well, we're gonna charge you 10 cents a gallon for gas, you buy 7, I can gladly pay it. To me, it's worthwhile, you know, not to have to take the risk to handle myself, but.
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, I'm just trying to figure out how we line up with everybody else, and I think in my mind, not to interrupt, I will. That I'm wanting to get to the airport use fees to see what dollar impact that could bring to help offset the power costs. So that's the other piece I think we need to discuss before we can say, do we want 12 cents or 14 cents?
Yeah.
That was my point. If there was some analogy there showing how.
Well, you're talking 1.1 million, is it 1.1 million?
It was
1.4.
1.2 to 1.3 to 1.4 of jet.
So we know that number. We need to.
I think it was 100,000 on here.
Yeah, 100 low lead, correct.
So that's really just about 2,000. But, you know, it was a way of saying, okay, everybody gets to pick something in. So everybody should.
Does you want to move to the next category? Or,
Yeah, I think
Sure.
Before anybody makes it.
Yeah.
If I can say one thing before we move
Sorry.
on. You know, I'm not sure if we decide to really tell them this one, we should say, okay, we'll leave it to your discretion. Pick one number or the other within this range, whether we should, as a group, say, let's stack hands on this set figure and move forward with the board. With the recommendation.
Yes.
I can say that while the BOCC has the final say in what gets implemented through the resolution, they rely solely on the advisory board to make. That's one of the duties that you're charged with, essentially.
Mhm.
So,
Well, we need to settle one another.
yes.
We can move on to the next piece.
Sure, and I don't want to stop that, but at some point, I'd like to, if it's rational, know, okay, so if it goes up, what are your projections for how much additional revenue you may see from the fuel flowage fee if you raise it from 9 cents to 12 versus whatever,
Mhm.
14, but we can come back to that and if you want to, like in a conclusory part of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
70 grand?
Yeah.
70 grand.
70 grand,
Yeah, what's the value, you know?
between 12 and 14,
100,000.
goes up a little more. Okay.
We're here 5 cents to the 1.4.
How many landings do we have?
Well, right now we're just over 125,000 operations. So cut that in half.
May 1st, October 31st.
Oh,
That
through
would
the
be subject to landing.
essentially,
Fish.
no, I did the math on that. Essentially, because it wouldn't affect based aircraft, that would, all the same exemptions would still lock in. So anyone that's a based and it's from that 10K and above, it'd be for non-based aircraft. It's roughly, I want to say 4,000 operations between that 6-month period. So essentially that proposed landing fee was just another option. Once again, something to bring the board to say we can do fuel flowage, we can do the landing fee, we can do both, we can do just the flowage. So it's just another way to capture.
So this could be 40,000 here. 40 grand, yeah. And you said it's 10,000 and above. What's the tower support fee only?
So
It's for the smaller aircraft.
correct, from that 8 to 10K. So the floor for the ATC support fee, it would be 8,000 pounds, not 10,000. So 8,000 to 10,000, and then obviously assessed with the 10,000.
Oh, so it's $10, then these are up.
Right.
And that would only run because that's a direct ATC cost during the operational period, essentially.
So the landing fees would be year-round.
Correct. Yeah, the landing fee would not change. That would still be year round. Those we're not touching, we're not changing. This was
We discussed when the tower fee year round, we said it really doesn't make sense if somebody comes in after the tower support, which is 50%.
correct.
So basically what we're saying is we're gonna keep our landing fees the same, but during the tower operations, we're at $10 to,
The non-based.
based on 1,000 pounds gross weight.
Yep.
and then $10.
Just a flat fee. Yeah.
Right.
My point on those is that these planning deals, my experience is, these invoices roll in 6 months later. And it's like, it appears to me to be an absolute nightmare for someone to administer and maintain, and collect. I would think you guys would spend $10 trying to collect the $10.
So essentially, this would be assessed through, we have an automated billing service, Vector, that handles all this. So they would capture all the ADSB traffic that meets that weight criteria in that calendar date range billed, essentially. So whether they chose to send the bills out later or earlier, they're just running a report based on our landing reports here.
So the service.
So the service handles that. And there is a loss associated with that. You know, they say how many people, 10, 20% of people don't send in their landing fees, and then they're going after them.
And
And that way,
what's the kind of Vector now?
Vector's at 20%, I believe, of all landing fees. So essentially, it's $8 coming back to us on that. So once again, just another option. We can do just the flowage. It'd be, we as a baseline would at least do the flowage increase and then count the landing fee as optional in this regard. But it was just another way to capture essentially the visitor traffic into Coeur d'Alene. That increase in traffic that we're seeing during the busy season.
So again, you think, how many landing would it apply to?
Roughly 4,000 for that 8K and above based on last year's report.
Okay, so at least 4,000 dollars a month. Or, times 10, 40,000.
Well,
Yeah.
well,
Plus
plus
the-
the
plus the bigger guys.
32,000 net back.
Right.
Plus the big Jackalope line, I don't know if you did the analysis on that.
Well, they were already.
Right. Yeah, they pay that already,
Yeah.
Oh,
Ross.
they do?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, all we're talking
just the
We're
$10
just talking about
section,
the
yeah.
other landing fees were not touched. Those have been in
Yes.
place. We're not adjusting those.
So Vector is already handling those.
Correct.
Yes.
about your point about them building them late. I did a round trip to Dallas in November and I still can't still go again.
So $10 to have towers, pretty cheap.
Well, and we targeted during the season, we targeted that segment primarily because that's a lot of the traffic we get in the summer, you know.
Yeah.
And it's, and that was these guys, he said these guys tell them that, hey, big family fee if you have towers.
That's based on direct conversations from the pilots. They're like, we'll pay you $100 to be able to talk to someone. Just, we want the tower here. We want it. We do not want to come in here.
Really saying that the $10 fee was really typical.
Yeah, it's, so a lot of the times the ATC fees are mixed into their landing fees. So where we already had our landing fees assessed, it's hard to look for a strict ATC fee that's assessed. That's why they're calling it essentially an ATC support fee. Most airports, that fee is mixed in with their normal schedule at a full-time towered airport. So they don't really cut that as a separate thing like we would be. Yeah.
It's not affecting our local users.
No.
It's affecting the people that are getting to enjoy this airport. And, I actually think it's a great idea. I got a question. What's the offset from what the Forest Service pays for the tower and what we're gonna pay for the tower? What are we looking at?
We are paying, if they only, $450, if they only pay for 3 months, we pay for $450. It's like, yeah, it's $147,000 per month.
I think we're stuck at 450 no matter what. There's extra time on the tower due to the fire season, you see the Forest Service pays out.
No, so essentially, the Forest Service can't start paying for the tower until the fires start or until they go active. So they're looking at July 1. So what they're looking at is how far does the fire season last, to the fall. So if it continues on through August, September, they just continue to pay those and they're getting billed for those months. We don't even get billed for it. So yeah, that does not flow through us.
So we're paying that monthly until the Forest Service kicks in.
Correct.
And that was how much? 125,000.
147.
147 a month. Yeah, or 4.5 months, depending on how long.
Correct. Yep.
shocked at this. Why is there a disparity in that gas?
Well,
Shoot.
what we tried to do, we tried to balance the idea that we want to have cost sharing among all the airports. With the idea of, okay, how does it stack up against the airports as to what they charge?
Yeah, that's,
We felt that, 2 cents was reasonable, 400 low lead based on that as opposed to 3 to 5 cents.
yeah, the 8 to 9 cent range, 400 low lead's pretty standard. Yeah, 7, 8, 9 cents.
Because all those rich jet owners over the.
I'm sure Eric is just fine at shopping. Have that experience.
You used to bring jet aid.
Yes, and I have a quick question. You mentioned bringing back a resolution, or would you formulate the resolution based on the decision today?
Essentially, you make a decision, it goes into the minutes, and then we go to the next VOCC airport update meeting, I believe on the 28th.
28th.
And then we will present these fees to the VOCC. They will then adopt that resolution. Or they'll take the recommendation, we'll bring a resolution to the next business meeting. Yeah. To the VOCC.
What percentage increase?
Oh, I'm already voiced that with,
Yeah.
So, stay here, Mr. Chairman, I've got a comment. So we've been talking for quite a while here about these fees, and the numbers we're really talking about is $450,000 is going to be an annual increase for maintaining a temporary tower, a seasonal tower. Excuse me. If we introduce the fuel flowage increases that we're talking about, that's going to give us somewhere between, at the high end, $70,000 a year. And at the low end, $42,000 a year. If we institute the $10 landing fee of $40,000, I think we ought to do something to supplement the tower. And my personal opinion, and I'm ready to make a motion on this, is that the $10 additional landing fee, including the 8,000, 10,000 pound airplanes, is going to add $40,000. That's a token number, but leave the fuel flowage stuff the same, because to me that's an arbitrary number anyway. It can add us some revenue. Let's see how this season works out. And if we need to do some fuel flowage numbers next year, let's talk about doing that. But I'm ready to say, let's do the $10 landing fee only. We've also already this year raised the fees for the landing fees for the 10,000 above aircraft. So that's well.
We didn't raise any landing fees. We raised the floor. So it went from 8,000 to 10,000 to start getting.
But I thought we changed these numbers as well.
No, we don't change the rates per thousand.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I'll still stay where I'm at though, in that, I think we've hammered this long enough. If someone else wants to make a motion and include something with the flowage fees, fine. Otherwise, I'm ready to move on. So let me hear your motion. Make an official motion. I move that we adopt the CPI increase that is proposed by the administration, the 4.32% increase, and that we also adopt the $10 landing fee for all aircraft 8,000 pounds and above not stationed at this airport. And that those numbers, the $10 fee be only during the period of May 1 through October 3.
And you're not making a motion to increase above the 0.09 that the fuel flow.
No, that leave the fuel flowage at 0.09 and 0.09 for, well, actually it'd be at 0.07 is what the current number is 0.07, right?
No, 7 for 100, 9 cents per jet.
Right. So that's what we would do.
Is there any more discussion on this, or are we gonna be?
No, we can discuss. Now's the
Will have to
time
be a
for
second.
discussion.
Yeah. Oh, you want to second the motion?
Well, I would second the motion, your motion.
I'll call for discussion.
And then there's a call for discussion.
So, I think that if we're incurring the new cost, sure, I agree. I think that this is the less, if I was to support one of the two fees, I would support the fuel flush fee over the landing fee because it's gonna generate more revenue. No one's gonna really even be irritated by it or see it. And the landing fee is an irritant and that everyone will see, and we only get 80%.
Even though I raised the issue of the jet fuel user, I could support the increases on the forage fee to 9 and 14. Roughly per hour. And I could support the $10, but I'm kind of ambivalent about it, so.
I really liked all the ideas that Dick had when he was here at the one meeting. And basically everything was aimed at encouraging people to come and use the airport, increasing commerce, bringing people to the airport. And so, and I hope we talk some more about some of those great ideas. But anyway, I feel like the one is kind of deterring the other not so much. Although both small.
When I worked with Gas and Kim, we met crafting these increases. I would support both of them for a very simple reason. Okay, yeah, I'm gonna charge you, of course I'm charge you, but here's what you get for your money. In the previous administration, there were several times that we have fees increased and we ask, why are they increased? We don't pay. They pay more bills, they pay more. And I don't believe in that. I think if you're gonna collect additional revenue, it should be associated with benefit. And I think in this particular case, the benefit that we're getting proportionate to the cost is so much greater. It really doesn't bother me a bit personally to pay any additional cost to have that tower. But, you know, I recognize, I recognize your opposing points of view, but that's how I feel.
My motion was meant primarily to move this along because I think we've hammered it to death. I'm ambivalent as to either one, but I think the motion needed to be set forth and let's vote on it. Vote this one down and someone else come up with another motion and let's move it along.
Well, you can also propose a friendly amendment. But if you want to go ups and downs, that's fine too.
So I'm not gonna change mine. Are you gonna propose an amendment?
Given Mr. Anderson's position, I think it's futile. So let's go to a vote.
Okay, motion has been made and seconded to approve the CPI increase and the landing fee increase proposed for 2024. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay.
Nay. I thought you were proposing the forage fee to stay the same in the line. So I vote nay.
The motion is to increase the lease rates, the landing fee, and leave the flowage fees where they are. So can I see a show of hands on the ayes? And on the nays? No, I can't vote. No, you can't, these two are alternates. Right. Okay, so, motion is defeated 42. Given that, I hate to do this, given that the time is getting long on this meeting, I think what we need is an opportunity to visit it again in the next meeting and suggest a table for further discussion at that point in time.
I suggest.
I don't think one.
Well, I said, well, Frank, what, if this is going to affect May 1, I mean, we're already past that.
June 1, essentially is what we'd be shooting for, because we still have to bring it to
We're
PSC.
going to do effect before next week. Well, this says May 1 through October 31 for planning.
Correct, we're behind on this
So
one.
we're already behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, the increase is going to take effect. So we don't want to do it.
Okay,
So how about a motion to approve the CPI adjustment of 4.32% on the item 1 lease rates. And an increase for fuel flowage on the 100 low lead as proposed. And the Jet A, what was it? The range was say 14.
Anywhere from 3 cents to 5 cents.
3 cents. So split the baby 12 cents on the low end here, and split the baby just on the low end. And then as for the landing fee, the $10 landing fee billed May through October 31. That was the motion. Why don't we run that up the flagpole, see if somebody seconds it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a amendment to your motion to reflect that the fees would be offsetting the cost associated with running the tower, whatever it is.
Based on that premise,
So we
yeah,
have a
I
justification
entertain,
between
yes, I accept that from the amendment.
I'll second.
To set the administrative record for it. Yep.
Need a second?
I second.
Motion has been made to increase the lease rates 4.32%. To increase the fuel flowage fee on the whole road by 2 cents a gallon, by Jet A, 3 cents a gallon. And the landing, air traffic control landing fee, $10 to be imposed during tower season. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay.
No, I said aye.
Oh, you said aye? I have. Okay, motion is passed. Moving on. We have a presentation tonight. Brian Turner. Yeah, Brian is going to give a presentation on when he sees some opportunities and ideas for resumption of scheduled airline service in the states of the week, which we haven't seen since the 90s.
Yeah, 90s, between the 40s and the 90s. So,
Well, you take it away.
okay, thanks a lot. It's great to be here, everybody. Thanks a lot to the advisory board for having me here tonight, to the airport director, and to all of you that are interested in being here. Is this okay, me doing this? Am I on the mic? And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The projector is having technical difficulties showing those slides up there, so we won't be able to get it on there tonight, unfortunately.
Oh,
Sorry.
darn,
Apologies.
I was hoping everybody would look at that, and then they wouldn't be looking at me and that sort of stuff. Well, okay, I won't be shy. And because I know that we're running a little late on time, I wasn't designed to go too terribly long. So let me just start out. My name's Brian McKiernan. And I'm over here from the west side over in Seattle. And I've been following with great interest Coeur d'Alene and potential, starting to have my back towards anybody. I have to be an owl here to turn my head all the way around. But it was something that came up and that it got started. And I'm going to address that a little bit. My purpose for being here tonight is to just bring forward the concept of scheduled airline service being readdressed to Coeur d'Alene. As mentioned, the airport has had passenger service before, and it has come and it has gone in phases, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And so tonight, what I want to do is just ask everybody for a moment to just roll along with me on this on a conceptual type of idea. And that I'm not here to push anything on us or that. I'm really here to just talk about kind of what establishing passenger scheduled service out of an airport like Coeur d'Alene and a community like Coeur d'Alene and Kootenai County would actually look like if it's done step by step, phase by phase. And you'll see how it flows and how we bring things together. The folks involved in aviation, the airport community, all of you, the community itself, the people in the community themselves have a role in all of this for it to all come together. And the key word in here is sustainability, to sustain service for a long time. You don't want to put any service in here that's going to peter out in about, a year or two or anything like that. And there's a big change in all of this since the post-pandemic and the way things were done before. So this proposal is just, it's a perspective, not a proposal. This is a perspective on what something like that would look like. So anytime you want to start a lightning rod and that bring up the word scheduled airline service to a committee group or an airport group, you're going to get everything from yawns to I don't think so, to you've got to be kidding, we've done that before. And then you're going to have people that are also going to say, okay, let's take a look at it. Let's see what's going to happen. That's what I want to bring together, is all of that. So getting to the point on that, because I would have slides going with this and that, but they just be the title. So the first slide tonight would have been introduction. And I really cut that short, my name and what I'm doing here. So let's keep on moving. The next slide would be scheduled airline service. I'll just talk briefly about the history. Of course, it has been from the 40s to the 90s. And there was scheduled service, but the reality of operating costs, economy changing, competition, and the whim of the markets served even well-financed airline operators during that period of time were able to run and grow services out of here that were successful, but then that kind of brought it kind of changed to phase out, actually. And again, that's just the nature of the business. Things change, prices, the economy, and that change. So sadly, the runway for startup carriers in new markets is lined with the metal of the planes that flew for a while and then ran out of money, ran out of opportunities, got competition in many different ways. Now we're in the present. It's 2024 and we're all here tonight. And you might remember about 17 months ago, a company named Avport came in here. The great presentation, my gosh, they came in, they got press, they got media, they beat the drums, and they were talking about, from what I saw at the time when I first noticed it, like 737s lined up in a big terminal building. And I mean, quite honestly, they hadn't paid any attention. That was what, Pat, what you said earlier about jamming things down. They just sort of rolled in here like a 10,000-pound gorilla. And believe me, none of that would have ever worked. And you folks were all wise enough to realize that, see that. It just wasn't going to happen with destinations like Los Angeles, Phoenix, the Bay Area, et cetera, et cetera. And they forgot that there is an airport to the west of here that's got a pretty good reputation and pretty good size, called Spokane International. So let's bring our sight in and bring our focus in for Coeur d'Alene to something a little bit different here. We don't need to have the type of operation that is going to change the whole profile of the airport for large commercial service. And that, any of you remember the name Milt Culp, the founder of Horizon Air? When Milt started Horizon Air, just as a small commuter airline, one of the things that he always said when he went to speeches at chambers of commerce and rotaries, different things, is he made the comment, he said, I'm not out to compete against the big carriers. I'm out to take people out in cars and fly them regionally. And that's what he built that airline upon, until, of course, they merged with Alaska, or they were taken over by Alaska. But the point of that was behind it. And that's still a very valid type of a premise to work from nowadays in the scheduled side of it. So what we started out, that's a little bit about the present. And the next slide said a vision. We're in a position here in this community to start a clean slate. There is nobody to follow at this point. There hasn't been anybody for a long time. There's a new landscape of economics. There's strategies, unlimited strategies that can be used for putting it together. And a lot of this didn't even exist up until post-pandemic. We're looking at a whole different world here and a whole different way of operating. Up here in the Northwest, your area is growing. You are growing. And airports, they do generate commerce. And commerce flocks towards the airports. But then that puts an extra burden on airports to expand service for various different reasons. So starting out with the vision and the clean slate, put together a wish list. And I'm just really simplifying this for all of our sake, just to give a concept on it. And that's the ideas and the input. It's the opportunity to brainstorm and put ideas together and weigh them out and see what works and what won't work. Because you don't want to move forward on concepts that don't work, obviously. And that then you move into the reality phase. And with the reality of it is where you start to filter and run the wish list through the filter and see what comes out. What's really going to work? What's going to work from the standpoint of all of the different factors, which I'll mention here later, what it takes to start an airline or run an airline. There are airlines out there. There are airlines that aren't the big ones that will fit the demand and can fit the market. But it just will take time to filter that out. And what I'm saying at here, if you notice underlying is, this isn't something that gets done overnight and gets rushed. There is time that has to be taken. It has to be developed. And once the framework and all of this is developed, we pull it in and we put it into the playbook. The playbook is ultimately, again, the final study, the final research, the final recommendations, repeat, and you go back through it again. And so if I actually consolidate the factors and illustrate the plan, this includes taking all of the reality conclusions and pulling them together with all the other elements involved. Now we can talk at this point about the economics, the routes, the type of airline operators, Part 121, 35, even 380 airline selection at this time, terminal facility, is there facilities that will work in the beginning without having to bring a huge, airport in with concourses and everything like that. You take a look at the infrastructure that you currently have, and then competition. Looking at Coeur d'Alene for the different markets and looking at Spokane, is it possible to operate in conjunction? The answer to that is yes, if you look at it the right way. We would be operating type of aircraft that fit perfectly with this airport and would be able to operate into some other airports. And I'm just blue skying this for you. I'm going to use an example for everybody. And that, to give you an example, I'm not saying that it would have to be something that would be done, but Coeur d'Alene to Boeing Field. Boeing Field is the city airport, the downtown airport in Seattle, for example. You don't have all of the traffic, you don't have the congestion, you don't have everything that you have with SeaTac. And that, on the other hand, it's underutilized. It's perfect for something like that. Other airlines have tried it and been successful for a while. I think they expanded too fast and ultimately lost the benefit of that. But throwing that out is just to kind of give you an image. And again, with my slides, I would be able to pull some of that together for you. So without the slides, that's what I wanted just to. In summary, what I hope is that at least this evening, we have a basic idea that we're not in a rush, we're not in a hurry, but we do have the time to go ahead and put something together from the models that exist already that can be brought in. We can have time to take a look at the economics. We have time to look at where it fits in with the community, starting input from our Convention and Visitors Bureau people, our corporations that are based around here, and the community themselves, bringing that together. That is, from my perspective, that I wanted to share with you tonight, the way to have a successful operation, scheduled airline service in a market like Coeur d'Alene without changing the overall picture of the whole community. And that. So again, without slides, and that I will go ahead and wind down. But my final slide was for any questions.
One question I have is, can we have a copy of your slides?
You know what? Yeah, we'll get this. They are basically the titles and everything to follow. So that's why I'm kind of winging it off of that tonight. Okay. So, but yes, yeah, you certainly can. I'll go ahead and put that together. Do you want me to go through you? I can do that, Kim, and that. And
We can just,
make sure that the formatting and everything works.
it's up to you. If you want to do something, or we can just take what we've got and.
I would be happy to take, I'd be happy to take the slides and put basically what I've said here in fill in between them all. So, yeah.
I have a few questions, Brian.
Okay, so in your intro, you mentioned we know your name, but I think it's important to know your personal experience.
Uh-huh.
So where are you coming from as far as any type of projects that you have worked successfully in the past? Maybe most importantly, unsuccessfully.
Uh-huh.
So where are you coming from there as far as your experience?
Okay, thank you. It was right here. I sort of kind of blowing through that. And if you don't mind, I'm retired Alaska Airlines, and I spent many years with them from the years that they started expanding south into California. And during that period of time, in my position in marketing, planning, and outright sales in the community for travel agents and corporate, I had the opportunity to be a part of, with Alaska, no less than 17 city openings. We were very small when I started with them, and we went ahead and we started expanding a lot. And that's how Alaska really came to be the fifth largest airline in the United States. I worked with them through all their expansions in Mexico, through the West Coast and the western part of the United States. And by the time I retired from them, I had a lot of years, and I basically took a buyout, went on with a couple of other carriers you may have heard of. There was something called Reno Air, started up. It was a successful carrier that ultimately got bought out by American Airlines and acquired by American Airlines. And that we did a lot of growing there too. Successfully, I'm happy to say that the cities and the research and the studies and doing the marketing and everything that we did and the pattern that we followed working with the communities and that, I only ever had one city that actually failed. And they started flying, well, we were up against airline that was throwing wide body aircraft at us and everything like that. It was not a good choice. And it was an international route because it was to Canada. So, but the company still was flying to the cities that we put together back in the 80s, mostly the 80s. And that was when I was with those. And as far as Aerocoastal right now, you folks have really been a wonderful priority and inviting me to sit in the meetings just as an interested party. And that I'm currently working with a number of other airports in the region that are not much further along, to be honest with you, or they've lost service, and they're working to get that back. I'm not working with any essential air service right now because none of the airports that I deal with or anything like that are qualified for it. They're not EAS aircraft.
You said Aerocoastal, is that something in your will?
That is my work, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm not under any contract or anything like that here tonight. I just wanted to give this presentation, again, for perspective on.
So your interest in this would be to develop service with a startup airline or an existing carrier? What's your exact interest?
My exact interest would be if the community wants air service, they want scheduled air service, is to work with you all for the destinations, the airline, bringing the right airline in, working here at the airport with interested parties that might be able to carry, a part of that, as opposed to rolling in here again with new terminals and all that. We just aren't to that point yet. So
I do have another question. So have you done any kind of statistical analysis on the number of travelers that this might fetch?
I have not, and that I have put a proposal together by request of one of the county commissioners at one point, and I don't know if it was bad timing or what. It just wasn't good. Bill, you're familiar with that, with Bruce and everything, and that was just the point. That was just the point. I had put the proposal together. I outlined everything that would be covered and date and time and everything like that, and that was a year ago. That was April of last year. That did not get off the ground. So, like I said, I'm not sure. I didn't have a lot of feedback.
One last question. So I think when, as Ed had mentioned, the concern of the local community, that was something that we had with Outports, and that was just a bad deal all the way around because just not only their plan, but where they had it located. and there was gonna be a lot of traffic through residential areas to get to the terminal, and it was just gonna be a big mess. And I think they finally realized that, and then they gave up for one reason or another. But I think, another concern would be, it's been mentioned, airport noise. And so I think a lot of people are asking, well, if something like this happens, what types of aircraft are we talking about? Because there's a noise factor obviously associated with the larger the aircraft, or a perceived noise factor. The larger the aircraft, the more noisy. So where does that go?
I mean, the aircraft have been successful in similar situations like this, within the PC-12, the Twin Caravan, King Air 350, just for example.
For the benefit of people. State passenger counts associated with.
Oh, yeah. In the PC-12 and the Twin Caravan, you're basically looking at around 9 passengers. So
Are these, I mean, jets, turboprop?
turboprop.
Yeah.
These are turboprop aircraft. Yeah. But
The opposite, because that's aircraft that fly in and out of here.
Yes.
mhm. Yeah. And again, why? Why? Because if you come in with a larger airplane, you're not going to have sustainable load factors at first. And I would even propose that we would, if we were to proceed with all of this, and with to answer the aircraft question too, we would perhaps want to look at a seasonal startup to begin with, and that start to get our feet wet with it, and make sure that the demand is there. Because there's always going to be general aviation, executive aviation, and that are going to be a major part of everything. But it's also a case of connecting in with the right destinations and tying the links together. You can pick up some corporate traffic, you can pick up leisure traffic, but this is all part of the study. This was part of what my proposal put in. So it was there. It is in writing. It does exist, and everything. And it was set to go. In that case, though, we're in slate now. We're starting over. My being here is starting over, actually, to bring information to all of you that I hadn't been done before. And I guess you could say if Avport left a bad taste in people's mouth, I'm here to be the Listerine. Or scope, whatever.
So Brian, thank you for coming here tonight, and you and I have spoken several times.
Yes.
And I think Ross's question really gets to the very essence of why you're here, is that you're marketing your services to the county to market this airport. And personally, I don't think we crossed that hurdle, which is probably why you didn't get much traction with the county commissioners. That's a question that we need to address. What do we want to market ourselves as, or do we? I mean, clearly you've got the credentials to where if Verizon or if Reno or whoever contacted you and said that they wanted to come in here, you have the credentials to do the type of research and to be paid for by a company like that to then come to us and do some groundbreaking that Avport's never did with any of us.
Right.
So, I mean, my personal opinion is the reason that it didn't go farther with the county commissioners is we haven't crossed that bridge at this point. And that's some discussion that will take place hopefully in the airport master plan that we're talking about. And as we've got a different advisory group here now that has different ideas of what we want to do, I think those are some things we need to do. But clearly, you've got some very good credentials, and if you have some contacts that are interested in coming here, I don't think anyone has precluded the possibility of us doing the types of service that you're talking about. I think I'm speaking for myself, sure, not for the board, but I would be receptive to listening to what impacts is it going to have, how much support is the county going to have to come up with, how it's going to impact the area, the noise, all of the things. So anyway, that's where I'm at, but I do appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the time you spent individually with me,
Thank you.
sharing your
Thank you.
back.
Sure.
Brian, do you reside here for county?
No, I've been coming over here and everything because I like to mountain bike and I like to do some of the things that Eastern Washington, Northern Idaho offer as far as recreation goes. But in general, I was actually, without getting deeply into it, I was based here for 4 years from not 4 or 5 years, but 1985 to 1990, the last airlines. And I was the regional marketing manager here out of Spokane. But I was with them during the integration of Horizon Air into Alaska Airlines. So part of the reason I was here was to basically go out to all of the Horizon Air cities, get them familiar with Alaska, work with their sales and marketing people, and build a market plan for all the area around here, all the airports in Montana, Idaho, and Eastern Washington. So that had a lot to do with it. So I have had experience here, the travel industry, the tourism industry, in different businesses, corporate accounts, and things like that. So I have an affinity towards the area. I have a personal affinity towards this area. So.
I guess the reason that I asked that question, I'm looking just thinking, definitely 2 seasons. May through November, got one place to go else that I'd rather live here.
Mm-hmm.
And then from November through about now, it's like, get me anywhere else. I guess the reason I mentioned that, you have to be careful. This is like flying in out of North Pole. And, we have commercial air service here, and I've been around long enough to realize why did it, Larry can testify to this, number one, Spokane was the other conversation. Larry told me stories when he worked in Southwest, as soon as somebody set up a $49 one-way fare to Boise, Southwest dropped to $29.
Yeah, oh yeah.
People would go right over to Spokane, it might cost them more money to park over there. But, there's kind of a lot. I had to fly a lot for business, and the nice thing was I could go to Spokane and get anywhere else in the world. I suppose there would be a market here, a certain number of residents that would want to have the ability to travel regionally for business. I know there's people that go back and forth to Boise. Probably, if you kept it a smaller airplane, it would probably work. But this town's kind of like a one-trick pony when it comes to commercial service. And I know when airports came in here, that was pretty much a unilateral effort of the previous circle. He wanted to bring them in here, he wanted to establish that. I and Steve, and a lot of people on this board, took force for an opposition to it, thank goodness.
Yeah.
I won't say
the Dreams Airport.
I mean, I won't say I'm opposed. I won't say I'm opposed to the idea of, okay, you got 15,000 jumper comes in here. Ross wants to pop on the plane, go down to Boise and back, okay, that's fine. You might want to fly it home. But what? To anybody who would come in here, I really have to say, it's a pretty steep one. And as you're aware, we have a community group just overnight formed when we put it on the agenda. Not only go to hell, so. In discussions I've had with Bruce on this, I know one qualification on anybody coming in here is it has to be more organic. And number two, it has to be self-financed. I know the county is going to want to stretch, lay any money out to do anything on that. I don't know if the absence of the airport can control his own budget. I want to be straight up and clear on that. It's not that it's a bad idea. It's probably not at all, but it's
sure. Frank, I understand, and a lot, the model for Coeur d'Alene is framed at least by Aerocoastal myself. I have 3 associates as well that are involved in different parts of all of this. And I bring them on contract as we need them. They'll have different areas of expertise. But what I was going to say, the model for this and what I'm speaking about today, the model is formed. And the model is formed it can be adapted to Coeur d'Alene. It can be adapted to Moses Lake. It can be adapted to some of the other places in the Northwest that have yet to really get it running with. So that said, it does, and it is to just really cut to the chase on it, it's a start small, start smart. It's utilizing as much resources that already exist. There, we don't get into all this other stuff until the point comes where it succeeds and takes off and the need to grow is there. Without any growth, without any success on the side of the airlines coming in even, it's not going to work. But that's what we work at. We've got a niche. We're sort of the needle in the haystack, and we've got a niche that we know and a niche that we can work with. And that's why we're not going around, pounding on doors with GEG size airports or any of those at this point. There might be some individual contracting that can come up for a single project, I think. But in terms of air service and that model, that I can tell you that model needs to be established and put that together. So,
Anybody else in the board? I'd like to be moving up.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. I want to have one public comment. And again, please, if you want to make a comment, step forward, so identify yourself. I'm sorry?
Did you?
Oh, good word. Well, that's really just a form of message for everyone. I want any input on agenda items for the next meeting by June 5th. If you can email, call me, or text me with those, and I can incorporate them into the information I send out.
No, just remember not to copy the rest of the board when you do it, so it's not a serial meeting.
No.
Just add on. Yeah.
Can we move the public comment?
Yeah.
Hello, my name's Daniel McCullough. I'm also a resident, live over on Canfield now. And as a resident, the last thing I want to see is more traffic, whether it's private or commercial. So as you guys think about, what the best thing is the forward plan, I guess I would ask is how is the community really going to benefit from the expansion? I mean, I'm hearing plans about, okay, we start off small and we build it, we go. I mean, but do we want to turn this place into that? Where admittedly, you start off, say, with the Horizon Airlines, you end up with Alaska. I mean, once you open the door, how do you control it? How do you stop it? And do we want this area to turn into? I can see the negatives, I can see the traffic, I can see what brings in with the commercial airport kind of stuff that comes with that. But it seems like that would just add to our running head straight into trying to grow this place into something that most of us came away from to get away from. We came here for something else. Something helpful. But I've been here, my mother's been here since 1972. I've been coming here since 1972. I've been living here for 4 years. So, I mean, I have an appreciation for the culture because I've been around it for a lot of years, for a lot of decades. And it just seems like, this goes contrary to that. And you made a comment about like the FAA money and so forth. And as I listened to everyone talk about it, seems like they're already doing an expansion, like they're already building up towards being ready and acceptable for a Spokane level airport, for the commercial airport. So I guess my question is, is that the case? Is the tail wagging the dog? I mean, if you accept the FAA money, you're bound to go down this road anyway. I mean, is it already determined?
When you take FAA money, yes, you address this.
No, absolutely. When we take FAA money, I mean, all the projects up to this point are mostly maintenance projects, maintaining what's here. Exactly, like take our runway, rehabilitation project. It's taking a runway that was 30, 40 years old, redoing it.
Right.
You heard the adding the taxiway. So it sounds like we're expanding, like we're getting bigger.
Okay.
Really what we're doing, and Frank might be able to point to it on the board there, from our west ramp to the runway 6 end is right there. So if you go south over to the west ramp is essentially the taxiway that's getting added in there. It's not necessarily an expansion, it's a safety issue. So what you want to try and minimize is aircraft that are on the south side of the airport crossing a runway to depart on 6. So they add a taxiway in so they don't have to cross, they can get to So everything is a safety or maintenance related
Okay.
project. Yeah,
Not just being an airport, we're recurring existing resources. Can you talk about ground insurance and anti-discrimination? There's a 20-page document that the airport has to abide by, and the first 3 pages are federal statutes. And it's everything from complying to the American with Disabilities Act, all kinds of non-discrimination. So what that means is, let's say, somebody comes in here with a proposal for some kind of business. It doesn't have to be in here, right? It could be, good example would be, we had somebody who was gonna build a poultry shop.
Aviation electronics.
Aviation electronics. Now, we're certainly not in a position to say, no, we don't want you on the airport, you can't be here at 8, by the laws, they have the money. They want to take the business risk, and we're required to comply with those laws. It's not a private. So when we start talking about who we let in the gate and who we keep outside the gate, it starts to get a little bit indeterminate.
So it's driven by the money.
Well, it's
I mean,
driven by,
you don't
it's
consider
driven
enough
it's
money
driven by the
to-
demand. Let's say that an airline comes in, as I told Brian, let's say somebody comes in there and you have 2 weeks smaller aircraft, and they decide, they're gonna operate out, they fully deal with Stancraft, and they're gonna operate out of Stancraft. And they set up business, put it out the 4 million paper and said, we'll fly it away, $89 or whatever. If nobody shows up, we're not gonna do business. The day that, you see large body jets come in here, this was a problem we have at airports. I said, well, if people in Post Falls love those tanks off at 10 o'clock at night when they're going out in full power, that won't last. Geographically, this airport is kind of its own worst enemy for that kind of experience. It's a great general aviation airport. It always has been, it always will be. Personally, that's what I'm in favor of. But on the other hand, as Brian pointed out, if someone were to come in here with a valid organic, I don't want your money, I'll use my own money proposal, I don't know what to say.
there's a lot of pieces to that. It's not that we can't say no, there's a lot of community input. There absolutely be a lot of community input.
Conditional.
Yeah, no, yeah,
it's given the opportunity to be a ton of it, I have no doubt.
Absolutely.
But now the FAA money you would get regardless, just for the emergency services here.
Absolutely.
Correct.
That's what we're maintaining for. I mean, we operate obviously Forest Service, IDL, medical. Those are the type of users that we're keeping this turning for. That's the asset to the community.
So you'd be getting the FAA money whether no matter what, just to maintain that service, right?
Yep.
So in terms of deciding what kind of airport you want to have and a master plan of what you want to have or what you recommend, who's ultimately county board ultimately the deciding factor in that?
There would be lots of public hearings and discussion here and bringing in community comments. I mean, it would be a major undertaking if we were going to do a major expansion. And if there's a misunderstanding out there that we're expanding this airport, we're really
That's
not.
one of the reasons we're here. Because there is that misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Well, I think what happened, somebody read something into that agenda, it was never there.
Yeah.
So Brian had been here a year ago, and then I talked to him after the March meeting, and he said, I'd like to be on the agenda, I'd like to present some ideas about food. I said, that's fine. Anybody that comes here with the legitimate topic that they want to present to the board, whether it be Brian or you or anybody else, certainly can consider putting it on the agenda. But the idea was not to say, we're gonna sneak this in the back door and all of a sudden we're gonna be Spokane International Park 2. That's what
That
we
seems so
really-
convenient to get to Spokane. It's like, as a community member, go, look, really, this is the benefit. You got a couple people with private planes.
We
It's
were
like,
here
okay.
at the end of 2023 when they had a deal ready to go to the county commissioners to sign off for the terminal over here.
Yeah, I was here.
So
anyway,
so are we, and we stood up and said, no, we don't want this. And we certainly don't want to corrupt this area. That's not
Right, well, certainly, I would hope that be the case. But I guess to get an understanding, clarification on my last point here is that, you said if there was going to be a major expansion, there'd be all these public hearings, all this stuff has to happen. But at what level does the decision get made? Let's say you want to bring in somebody that just wants to run, starting off with a commercial.
Yeah, you're welcome to come to any of these meetings and to listen to the things that are happening. Things are going to move slowly, they do in government, and you'll have an opportunity for comment.
But it starts with you and it goes to the county on that small level or no?
It actually starts with the airport director, and and the master plan and the engineering group. And we listened to all of the things that are, being proposed and all of the budget items and all of those things. And if there's something that's different than what we've operated on, it will be on the agenda and we will have an opportunity for public conversation.
And the master plan is posted somewhere.
The
That's
master
the county website.
the master plan is on our website.
We said at the outset of the meeting, you have to remember, this is strictly an advisory.
Advisory, right, which is.
We were all, when we formed the board back in January, we were cautioning. You folks don't have to govern anything, it's when our Gaston and Corey County Commissioners, those elected folks, and they make those decisions. We simply make recommendations. We review.
Right, I follow it. I just want to make sure I understood how the food chain went on this thing, so if the decision is going to lie with the county elected
So if
officials.
you go over to Spokane to,
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay.
you go to Spokane, your airport board is a governing board, they do make decisions.
Gotcha.
For that airport. But no, we're simply here to facilitate communications between or among the commissioners, the airport director, and the public.
Okay.
And when, I know there's been some comments about, well, there's a bunch of pilots. Well, yeah, it's kind of nice to have people who are subject matter experts, just like if you go down to the hospital board, I kind of more comfortable with doctors. Serving on the hospital board, and, depends on what the subject matter is. But we're here really just to, lend some expertise and try and provide some wise guidance to what's going on with it. But it's certainly not to,
And I guarantee you, we've heard you, and we will be seeking public comment if there are things that are going to be a modification of the way we're operating this area.
Okay. Well, as like I say, as a resident, even a turbo jet, that's not quite like going overhead, is it? Thank you.
anyone else have anything they'd like to comment on?
Come on, guys, get brave. Okay, my name is Linda Putz and I live here in Hayden. And I did everything that he said, all his concerns. And I'm just curious as to the board's ideas. It sounded like you're not for larger commercial expansion, which I'm sure you will know will completely change North Idaho. I did come from LA. I saw my whole community, all of SoCal, completely disintegrate because, as someone Ed previously mentioned, Orange County Airport was not John Wayne Airport. It was a little nothing. So was Burbank, was a little nothing. There was nothing like the Metro Rail that changed the whole culture and dynamics of our community. And I think all of us that moved up here, we came up here for refuge. And I assume you guys like your refuge. We like the refuge. And although it sounds really great, we are asking as the advisory board to say absolutely no to any type of expansion. And you do have power because you said that the BOCC takes your advice on rate hikes, etc. So you probably have a lot more power than you think. And I just want to say, a lot of us are here as refugees, and we don't want that to happen here. And that's why so many of us are here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, in self-defense, Frank, I think I should probably say something. My name's Phil Cummings. I worked at this airport for 30 years. I've been in aviation airports 38 years. There's a lot of misconception, and I don't blame you for a lot of your comments. There's a lot of misconception about this airport that someone gave someone else the idea that we're trying to get 737s in here. That is not the case. Has never been the case. I moved down here from Alaska in '91. This is a nice airport. It's a great part of Idaho, yes. Is that airport going to grow? It will. The airport responds to community demands. Now, our market has always been corporate, the GA, and aerospace industry. That has been the market we've gone after. Now, for somebody to, and trust me, Southwest called us before they went to Spokane. I actually talked. They wanted to know about airport, because they want to move in here instead of go to Spokane, just like they did in Orange County. I said, sure, come on, take a look at it. I can't close the door. After talking to him for about an hour and finding out that we only have a category 1 ILS, we don't have a public terminal. Yeah, we have mountains over here in Hayden that we have to buy and tear down to put in a category 2 or 3 ILS. It'll probably be 50 years before, excuse me, the county can afford to put in a public terminal, and they said, oh, see you later. Alaska Airlines has been here, Horizon's been here, Key Lime operates Denver Connection, down here 328 jets, they've been here. Nice airport, we'll see you later. We're too restricted, as Brian said, commuter service, Empire tried it. We have others that would like to try it. But every time they come here, they take a look at it, the reality is Coeur d'Alene doesn't pencil out. Why? One, if we had a 9,000-foot runway, they still wouldn't come here. We only have a category 1 ILS. I don't know, Corey, you were part of the study. We looked at putting in a category 2 ILS so we could get commercial service in here to see what that possibility would be. And they said, well, yeah, you put one in, but it's going to be restricted. You can't put in a backwards marker unless you cut off 500 feet of those mountains over there. That's not going to happen. Can we say no? Not really. Is that a market? No. Bringing in more aerospace to this airport, those are good jobs. It's good for the community. I believe you will probably see a commuter of some form. Now, when we say commercial service, you need to understand, over 30 seats in Southwest, Alaska Airlines, the big guys. We have DC-12s, Gulfstream, we have all kinds of aircraft in the commuter category, operate in and out here every day. I think you'll probably see a commuter in here anytime soon. I really doubt it because we don't pencil. But I don't want to restrict this airport for any type of expansion to accommodate the Forest Service firefighting activities or the aerospace industry market that wants to move it. I shouldn't probably say this. We have a couple of them looking at it right now, and those are good jobs. But that's a manufacturing market. That's not 737s. There's not 10 flights. It's not 2 flights a day of the commuter. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you. This isn't Orange County. This isn't Teterboro, New Jersey. This is North Idaho. We're well aware of the problems that have happened somewhere else. The FAA will not let us put commercial service in this airport unless we have community support. Commuters, one thing. You start talking 737s. Airport's presentation was done very poorly. It didn't involve the community, it didn't involve the city of Hayden. And once the city of Hayden heard, they go, all right, who's going to pay for the new roads? Well, it was a very poor presentation to this community, to this airport. Be that as it may, that's not where our market is. That's just my 2 cents.
Anyone else?
Oh, yes, my name is Bill Breezy. I happen to live right off the map over here. Lancaster. I live on Straight Orange, just off of Lancaster. And we see, which I think we are like almost directly above the flight path of the small aircraft coming in. And, you know, and we've noticed that they seem to be getting more and more frequent, you know, which is okay. You know, but I think that, you know, having anything more frequent than what you have now, I think, you know, it's for the residences there, for, you know, that live around us. The other thing I've noticed is your aerial probably should be updated with where the current houses are. You know, what's being planned up there. I mean, I've been to public hearings where, you know, they're part of the new development that's right down over here, had to provide a no-build zone because of the runway. You're going to get more and more of those things. So take a look at what the community is planning, what planning and zoning is doing in the different, you know, cities you're doing, and make sure that it doesn't affect, you know, the plans for your airport. You know, I don't know whether whether Hayden has sends stuff to you for review for the new developments or not. But, you know, if they do, then you need to really look at those and make your comments to Hayden, so that you want, that would prohibit us from doing this, that, or the other, or, you know, stuff like that. So
We do have a permanent member of the city of Hayden on this board.
yeah, I know that. I know Lisa. So, yeah, that's all. And I want to thank you for your comments, because I think that alleviates a lot of the stuff. The community airport, you know, depends on the frequency, and that, to me, it's frequency, you know, to make sure that the nuisance is kind of minimized as much as possible. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you for your patience tonight. It's a long meeting, but we did want to address these issues, and hopefully we did.
Hopefully we, you know, clear up any misunderstanding. I was on Secretary Daniels. Somebody made a comment out there about your airport exceeding its allowed number of operations per day. Well, that's a good one.
What is the allowed number today?
I'm sorry?
What is is there a finite number today?
What's the allowed number of vehicles on I-98?
Well, that's, you mentioned the term about, you said that somebody said they had exceeded their allowed.
No, the comment was that the airport was exceeding the number of operations allowed.
But that was my question. Are there any?
No. That's why I said it's like the interstate. It's public use.
Yeah.
Anybody can use anytime, day or night. So this is the way it is.
So how many landings are you doing with it?
Depends on the time of year.
Depends on the time
I
of year.
mean,
Right
the
now,
city was-
we're sitting around that 200 to 300 hops per day.
It's in and out, take off landing.
That is a takeoff or a landing. So
A lot of those are flight instruction too.
there, as we get into the busy season. Go ahead.
24 hours, or is it like between, you know, 6 in the morning, 10 at night?
The airport is open 24/7. Chances are, if you hear a flight, I'm going to say randomly, like after 10 o'clock at night, it's likely medical. If you're hearing a helicopter or a fixed wing airplane landing here at 2 o'clock in the morning, being loud,
In
it's
my house, 2 weeks ago, it almost shook it.
yeah.
At 10:30 at night, wherever that was.
Yeah, unless there's special arrangements made for a late arrival, for the most part, the FBO is shut down by 9 o'clock at night. Everyone's gone home by then, so.
Did you hear about that a couple weeks ago?
Excuse me.
I'm sorry.
Could you use the side conversations?
Yeah.
Somebody would like to get home and be. We'd like to get home immediately. So I need to open for your.
I would,
Second.
Meeting's back.
Yeah.
All right, thanks, Jonathan. And then Mike. 7:08. Having your water, I asked my mom, you didn't care for my I'm sorry.
We're going back. Get rid of the landing. Yeah, I know.
I saw that.
It's gone, but I'll keep it because it's got.
I know, I saw that.
We both
I got mine, but I printed mine. I said, maybe we got them mixed up that night. And I said, maybe we ought to mark these to who goes left. I don't want to be mistaken. So,
You say they have to toss it when I know it's got a signature on it.
I'll take good care of it like all my other ones.